So we've all heard our parents say, eat your food, eat your vegetables, eat your fruits, eat your peas, eat your lettuce, eat your carrots, and all that stuff. Sometimes it annoys us as kids. However, you should thank them at this point. They gave you a big favor. The carrots, for example, that you ate as a kid, the ones that you always put off the side, maybe you threw them away in the garbage can. That allows you to have this growth spurts, and that allows you to have your brain rolled out a lot more, so that you can be more productive, doing cool stuff, and in the eventual future have that higher income, which is also related to having a good, adequate, balanced diet as a kid, and obviously following that up as you get older. But you know what's the easiest way to avoid having that conversation with your parents about not eating your vegetables? Easy. Don't even have them in the first place. So, and if that sounds like a good idea, you should probably live in Sylhet or in Chittagong in Bangladesh, because the children there, between 6 months to 5 years old, don't have that adequate balanced diet with all the micronutrients, the vitamins, and even the protein that you consume on a daily basis for granted. That's including meat. And with there, why the vitamins? Why so important? Why not fix global warming or something? Well, because with vitamins, what happens in the Sylhet and Chittagong is the growth deficiency, and in the future that leads to lack of productivity, lack of brain power, and also the reduction of their individual GDP. And if we're trying to get these countries out of poverty, it would be much more efficient and much more humane to actually get them out of poverty and actually give them the qualities that are necessary to get them around the 4,800 to a 5,200 individual GDP. That's when we get them out of poverty. And the best way to do it is by looking at micronutrients. So I want to just take a look at the case with specifically Chittagong in Bangladesh. So what are the most important vitamins for the kid? And for a kid specifically, the biggest one is vitamin A. Why vitamin A? Well, because it allows for the eyes to actually allow you to see. There's a quarter, like 250,000 of these kids end up having partially to total blindness, and half of that they die because of the lack of vitamin A. And the calcium that's already in their bones, or the calcium that will they eventually consume, the vitamin A allows for that distribution so that they can actually grow. Not having vitamin A allows you to have this growth spurt where you're like, not growth spurt, but like growth stump, where you're just like, oh, I'm not growing taller. Okay, that makes sense. So what's the best solution? Let's just put a bunch of vegetables. You know what? Let's give them that balanced diet, and then we're all solved. Now let's go fix global warming. Yeah, we could just probably, throw a bunch of pills that say vitamin A on them, and hopefully that reverses the problem. Well, besides the fact that, you would have to, there are nutrition programs, but despite the fact that, these are probably not the most efficient way, let alone the fact to store them, transfer them, distribute them, and then even make sure that they are even taking them adequately in the first place, is the fact that supplementation does not equal an adequate caloric intake for young infants. Yes, as much as they can consume supplements and have the vitamins, the kids are still needing an adequate caloric intake. And the adequate caloric intake, at least for the adults, let alone the children, depending on how much they work per day, that the average for the child to the adult is between around 1,500, 1,600 calories for an adult who works in Bangladesh, possibly up to like 2,400 to 2,600. So it's great. It would sound like a good idea, although it's not really not if we're trying to think of the benefit of the long run. So think of like two balance scales: supplementation and your caloric intake. If your caloric intake is this high, your vitamins and your nutrients, they're probably not the best. And most of us are like that in the developed world, where we eat a bunch of junk, but we don't have the good stuff. Or we take a lot of our vitamins and a lot of our minerals, but our protein and the good stuff is also kind of lacking. So you need to have a both good balance, and supplementation, or an excess amount of supplementation, will kill the entire balance. So following that up, we look at, okay, if we can't do that, if we can't just throw a bunch of pills at it and claim that we'd solve this problem, we're going to have to use whatever is naturally abundant in in Bangladesh. So what do we got? Well, Bangladesh, at least the people who live in Bangladesh, 2/3 of their diet is rice. Rice. It's the biggest, rice and cereal, but rice is the biggest thing that's out there. And this right here is on the, what you see in front is on the left. It shows where the majority of this stunted children live in Bangladesh. From 2012, it hasn't changed that much, although the number of growth stunts has gone down from 47% down to 42% to 37.4%. And from what you can see that the districts of Sylhet and Chittagong are the most effective. And on the right, you can see the border rice, which is the part that they have been using. And you can see where on the green, that's where you can, plant border rice and give it to the people of Bangladesh. The red and the darker colors are like, yeah, you can't do that. And if you notice on Chittagong, which is right here, you notice, whoa, that's red. What's up with that? It's hillsides. So it's not suitable, for rice agriculture and to produce it and to distribute it across those places. So if you want to do transfer rice from, let's say, the capital to Chittagong, it would take you around 5 days on a bus. Traffic is really that bad. You want to do it by, let's say, a plane. Yeah, it'd take you about maybe an hour or two. However, as I mentioned, we're trying to accelerate this process. So that's one thing of natural resources. Now we have this. So what can we do with it? Well, there was something that has been proposed that I do think we can make better. Let's tell the little story about our helpful friend, golden rice. And yeah, while it looks like a different breed of rice, and it is, it's genetically modified rice that has beta carotene in it. But what's so special about beta carotene to resolve the inadequate nutrition in the infants in Sylhet and Chittagong? Well, beta carotene, when it's dissolved in the body, it converts to vitamin A. That's big. And while I haven't explained how much this big it is, but that's huge. When converting it, about 1 cup contains almost half of the daily intake of vitamin A for an infant and for an adult. Insane. You just need 2 cups of this, and then you can actually have the adequate vitamin A intake to continue all the way through childhood, so you can actually develop the brain out and have this higher income where you can get yourself and potentially your family out of poverty. So, but yeah, that's amazing. But how does this work? How do you genetically modify rice? In a nutshell, the daphoids, which is a flower that is used for part of this process, found mainly in the Americas, or South America, my bad. And they use 2 specific bacteriums. The Erwina uredovora at the beginning of the process, where they alter the rice embryos with the genetic code and allow for the next bacteria, the Argobacterium tumefaciens, to come in and begin to switch the genetic code so that the beta carotene has more potential to create more beta carotene in the rice embryos, where they send it back into nature and allow it to cross between the regular border rice and to grow locally, so we have a mass abundance of the golden rice. Great, that's amazing. It's a great piece of technology. In my opinion, research and development in these technologies will do us a lot more benefit in the future. One example would be the discovery of oil underground, where people in the U.S. Used to hunt whales for their oil. Yeah, it was a little bit pricey and it was a little bit difficult to get the oil, but hey, we did that until someone dug a hole in Pennsylvania and said, oh, well, hey guys, come over here. There's some oil on the ground, let's forget about the whales. We have like unlimited stuff here. So what did they start doing? Digging up the floor in Pennsylvania, and there we go. We have oil. And guess what happened? The whales are still here. Why? Not because we cared about the environment, but we found a better resource. And that's the research and development in technology. Once you find a lot of it and it's cheap, abundant and cheap, everyone makes a switch. So I do think that's why golden rice has the potential. But why should we focus on golden rice? Why not maybe, more nutrition programs that give out a bunch of pills to everyone? Why that? Well, look at 2 men, Michael Schellenberger and Bjorn Lomberg. And these guys are amazing. They did a benefit to cost ratio. So in a nutshell, what that basically means is for every one taka, or the currency of Bangladesh, for every one taka that you put into golden rice research and development, how much of good in takas would you benefit to the rest of the public? So the answer, staggering. For one taka that you put in golden rice research and development, you would get 329 takas of good to the people of Chittagong, and pretty much the entire of Bangladesh in general. And that is amazing because for the difference in the nutrition program for pills and supplements, for one taka you put in the supplement program, it would only do 7 takas of good. Because why? It's more on integrating whatever you have with technology into the regular society naturally and creatively, which is why I do think it is such an important deal to keep investing in this. But there is always one thing that makes it all come crashing down, and it's the fact that technology can sometimes be a little bit scary, which is why it's still not implemented in the fields today and in all the regions of Sylhet and Bangladesh. Golden rice has failed in some way. Not yet. I think it's will have the impact, just not right now and not in the time where it's necessary. The main reason is genetically modified, so the farmers in mostly in the Philippines and also in Bangladesh, they are very skeptical of this, despite Philippines already accepting golden rice at this point. However, there are some places in Bangladesh, specifically more in like the regions of Dhaka and a little bit to the west of Chittagong, where they're not really ready to accept something that's been genetically modified and thinking that it's going to be dangerous for the kids in there. So they're not ready to take that leap yet. Although I do think at this time of finding out, which was in around 8 months ago, I do think that it would be nice to educate the people about this, but I don't think we have the time necessary for that. So we do have to work our way around this. Very good idea. I think it just needs, we need to try and find a way to start to break this barrier between technology and the social / political aspect of this. Because even with like bigger problems like the climate change is an absolute mess. Like it's very hard to separate the science from the politics, in my opinion. We have to try and find a way to try and integrate them even more creatively. It's like looking at a circle. This was one way of targeting this problem of child malnutrition, or at least vitamin deficiency. And this angle of looking at it worked to a certain extent. But what if we try a different angle that can actually get us further? So that's what I'm trying to seek here with more understanding. And going back to this graph again, we look at, okay, so Sylhet, if this were to be implemented right now, it wouldn't really have that such of an issue. So we look into places that may need a little bit more of a backup, just in case. So it would be like Chittagong, for example. So Chittagong, yes, it has a lot of child stunting, and that also plays a little bit role in the immigration from people from Myanmar, who sometimes are climate immigrants or they're coming here to seek refuge, which is why the graph there in the eastern side of Bangladesh is also a little bit populated with these growth stunts. And also the fact that it's hill, like it's very steep, it's hard to make the rice there. So what I propose, which I will also continue to look into the future, would be what if we don't need to actually integrate them into the rice, instead but actually create as what we call an extra different version of this integration, whereas we allow the system to continue, but we just add a little extra spice, a little extra flavor, as what we call it, instead of having potentially genetically modified rice that will take a bit of a while to convince people to have the protection of their children. Instead, let's create something a little bit different. Perhaps maybe a vitamin A spray that can be implemented easily on the rice as it's easily being consumed, so that we can actually have this more benefit of a push, and allow for the child stunting to decrease at a much more rapid rate, whereas having to convince 36 to 80 million Bangladeshis that would be valuable. So hope you like it, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you soon.